All right, let's jump into what's been happening with the Chargers in the first week of free agency. They've been hustling, no question, beefing up that defensive line with some wallet-friendly signings, snagging one of the top guards out there, and locking in a new starting running back. Pretty smart moves, huh? But here's the thing, they've still got some work ahead if they want this team to look tougher than last year. No beating around the bush, there's holes to plug. Lucky for them, they've got time. Free agency's still going strong, and the NFL draft's just a month off. Plenty of shots to keep stacking the deck. So, let's dig in. I'm going to go through every position group for the Chargers and spell out what I think they need to zero in on next for each one. Straight up expert breakdown, no fluff. Let's roll with it. What's up, Chargers fans? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Chargers. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the Bolts. All right, let's hit the quarterback spot for the Chargers first. They've got 3 guys locked in right now. No needs here, plain and simple. They've tied down Taylor Heineke with a deal through 2026, keeping that crew nice and steady. Easton Stick's still chilling as QB3, ready to roll as the emergency dude on game days if things go sideways. What's the next step? Honestly, nothing. They're golden at this position. No sense in messing with this bunch. It's locked in tight. So, let's keep it moving. Switching it up, we've got the running backs for the Chargers. They've got 4 dudes on the roster right now. What's the big need? A legit RB1 and some extra bodies. They made a splash nabbing Najee Harris from the Steelers, and wow, that's a total shakeup. Guy's been smashing 1,000-yard seasons like it's his job. 4 straight, no stumbles since he stepped into the league. That's a major lift for the Bolts' ground attack. Way more solid than what they had going before. But hold on. Behind Harris, it's Kamani Vidal, a 6th-rounder from 2024, Hassan Haskins, and Jarrett Patterson. Vidal and Haskins popped off a bit last year, sure. But it's not like they're screaming, "We've got this." It's not enough to just chill. Check out the Lions with Montgomery and Gibbs or the Ravens with Henry and Hill, even the Bucks with Irving and White. Those teams have a killer combo, and it clicks. If the Chargers want to be the contender they keep hyping up, they've got to snag a real partner for Harris. What's the game plan? Scoop up another big time back in this year's draft to team up with Najee. That's the vibe. Keep that run game deep and nasty. Now, let's dive into the wide receiver spot for the Chargers. They've got 8 guys on the roster right now. What's missing? A rookie who can grow into a starter, plus some backup depth. Bringing back Mike Williams was a slick move. Hands Justin Herbert a go-to X receiver right out the gate. That lets Lad McConkey feast in the slot, and Quentin Johnston can bounce around, maybe snag a mismatch or two. It's a sharp setup for this year. But here's the snag. Williams is only signed for 1 season, and past those 3, the depth's looking kinda weak. Can't brush that off. They've got to plan ahead. What's the call? Hit the draft and grab a young receiver they can build up. Someone ready to take over by year 2. Or, if they want a fast patch, sign a bargain vet who can jump in if injuries strike. Either way, they need to bulk up that crew. That's the move. Keep Herbert stocked with targets for the long haul. Let's switch gears to the tight end position for the Chargers. They've got 3 dudes on the roster right now. What's the big gap? A true TE1 and some backup muscle. This is a spot they could totally zero in on with a first-round draft pick. With how free agency played out for other teams, a guy like Colston Loveland from Michigan might just slide down to them at number 22nd. But even if he's snatched up, they can't leave this position hanging. The current lineup, Will Dissly, Tucker Fisk, McAllen Castles, it's pretty bleak, man. Way too light, no real difference maker in the bunch. Real talk, I'd say go all in here. Double up on tight ends in the draft like the Ravens have done a couple times over the past decade. Chargers have 10 picks to mess with. Why not? Nab a beast in the first couple rounds, then grab another gem on day 3. They've got to land a playmaker at a spot that's too clutch to ignore. That's the plan. Stack it up and fix this position for good. Now let's roll over to the offensive tackle spot for the Chargers. They've got 3 guys set right now. What's missing? Depth, no doubt about it. They didn't bring back Foster Sorrell, so it's just Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, and Tyler McClellan, that undrafted rookie from 2024. Trey Pipkins is still in the mix and could hang as the swing tackle after they signed Mekhi Becton, but word is he might get axed to free up some cap room. Here's the deal. If Pipkins bolts, they can't slack off. One tweak to Slater or Alt, and it's chaos time. That depth's too wobbly to trust. What's the next step? Scoop up a fresh swing tackle on day 3 of the draft. Gotta lock in that safety net. Keep the line steady no matter what comes their way. Diving into the interior offensive line for the Chargers, they've got 7 guys locked in right now. What's the hole? A new starting center, no question. They held on to Bradley Bozeman with a cheap deal, real low dough. But that shouldn't stop them from chasing a better option at center. If Bozeman slides to the bench, his $2.315 million cap hit, no sweat for a solid backup. But if Bozeman's still the guy come 2025, I'd hope they at least snagged a new left guard to start. Rolling with one of the league's weakest interior lines with just a tiny tweak? That's not the vibe they're aiming for. What's the move? Target a future center on day 2 of the draft. Lock down that cornerstone for the line, build it right for the long haul. All right, after that interior offensive shakeup, let's move to the interior defensive line for the Chargers. They've got 7 guys on the roster right now. What's missing? A real standout, a legit DL1. Letting Poona Ford walk in free agency? That's hands down the biggest slip-up they've had so far. To patch it, they picked up Naquan Jones and Deshaun Hand, 2 dudes who've been backups their whole careers. They'll toss them into the mix with Tier Tard and Otito Agbonia for the rotation. But here's the snag. This crew's got no superstar, no true starter popping out. None of these guys look like they'd crack a starting lineup anywhere else in the league. Makes me think the Chargers are banking on the draft to fix this, probably in the first couple days. You hear Michigan's Kenneth Grant getting name-dropped a bunch for this gig. Lucky for them, it's a stacked defensive tackle class. Some decent names should still be up for grabs on day 2. What's the plan? Hunt down a new starter in the first 3 rounds, or at least nab another body to crank up the heat in that room. Gotta land a difference maker in there. Switching gears, here come the edge rushers. The Chargers have 6 locked in right now. What's the gap? A future starter and some extra depth. Talking Khalil Mack into staying 1 more year? That's massive. He's holding it down with Tuli Tuipulotu and Bud Dupree as the top trio. Pretty tight crew right there. But behind them, it's a handful of former undrafted guys who aren't ready to take over yet. No rush to go overboard, but they've got to look ahead. What's the next step? Snag a project guy in the draft? Someone who can chill behind Mack in the squad for most of year 1, soak up the vibes, and be good to go in 2026 next to Tuli. Round 3 or 4 feels right for that, and shoot, maybe even double up on day 3 to really load up. That's the call, set up for today and tomorrow. Now, let's discuss the linebacker spot for the Chargers. They've got 7 dudes on the roster right now. What's the need? Depth, no question. Losing Nick Neiman to the Texans in free agency stung. He was clutch on special teams and as a backup. On the bright side, they held on to Denzel Perryman and Troy Dye, which is solid. They've got enough guys here, but I'd love to see them pump up that depth a bit more. Right now, Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, Shaq Quarterman, and Delshon Phillips are sitting as LB5, LB6, and LB7. Not exactly oozing confidence if they've got to step up big. If they stick with this as is, they'll probably scrape by, especially if Junior Colson balls out in year 2. So scoop up a cheap free agent or toss one of those late day 3 picks at a special teams type. That's the move. Keep that room locked in and ready for whatever. All right, let's dig into the cornerback spot for the Chargers. They've got 5 guys lined up right now. What's the gap? A fresh starting slot corner. They hit gold with Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart last year, 5th-round newbies who stepped right in. Then they snagged Dante Jackson, who's hopped from the Panthers to the Steelers to start, and picked up Benjamin St-Juste from the Commanders for some extra bodies. All in all, they've got the headcount, no question. But here's the tricky part. I'd kill to see them boost that slot corner gig when Derwin James isn't sliding over there. Jacer Taylor's holding it down now, and dude, he was a soft spot last season. Letting him soak up that many snaps again? That's a fumble waiting to happen. What's the plan? Grab one of those day 3 picks, they've got a bunch, and nab at least 1 new slot dude. Cross your fingers those free agent ads stay strong too. That's the move. Lock down that secondary. Now let's cap this off with the safety spot for the Chargers. They've got 5 on the roster right now. What's missing? Depth, straight up. They're rocking what could be the top safety trio in the league. No one's saying they need a starter or even a next in line. But past those 3, it's looking kind of weak. Kendall Williamson and Emily Johnson are fine for the tail end of the roster, but in Jesse Minter's defense, where safeties are a huge deal, I'd sleep better with 1 more solid name in the mix. So what's the call? Snag a day 3 pick and beef up that depth. Nothing wild, just a steady ad to keep it tight in the back. That's the vibe. Button it up and roll. There you go. Every position on the Chargers roster, laid out with the straight scoop on what they've pulled off and what's still on the to-do list. Free agency's just the kickoff, and with the draft a month away, this squad's got some plays to call. So what's your take? Which spot do you reckon is the most urgent for the Chargers to zero in on? Drop your thoughts in the comments.